Okay, so for the first one here, what'd you come up with?
14.
Negative 14. Very good. Start at 0. You got a negative 42. Positive 28 goes the opposite direction, but shorter. Number 23. Or number 3, sorry. 23. What do we get there? This is a negative 18. This is going to become plus a negative 23. Negative 18, negative 23 ends up negative 41. Number 4. Yeah, 19 and negative 13, we end up at positive 6. Number 5. This one ends up becoming 24 plus, remember it's plus the opposite of that next number, so plus 19. It's a positive 43.
So if it's even in a parentheses like that?
Yep, the parentheses are just saying that's a negative, not a minus. It's separating off the negative. Usually when the second number is a negative, it's almost always in the parentheses. Negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. Negative 27 minus a negative 34 is negative 27 plus a positive 34. So it's a positive 7. And then 21 plus negative 63. Positive 21, negative 63 goes the opposite direction and is much longer. Say negative 42. And negative 21 divided by negative 7 is 3. Any questions on those? Okay, well, it is time for our first quiz. On this quiz, 2 things. 1, you can use your notes in your books on all of it. The first 6 questions, I ask that you do not use your calculator. You can try it by hand, then go back and use your calculator to check it over. If you use the calculator for calculating like math facts, that's fine. You still have to show the handwork, the process of adding or subtracting or whatever. Show the steps. So if you need to use the calculator for actually doing like 8 times 9 or whatever, that's fine, but you have to show the steps of multiplying it out. You do get unlimited time on these quizzes, but at a certain point, I'm going to start lecturing on the new topic for today, and I'll bring it up then too, as you can just set it aside if you want to and work on it later. If we need more time after the end of class, we'll figure it out then. Okay, here it comes. Okay, so our new material for today involves problems that look like this. When we look at a problem like that, some of us might look at it and think, well, we read from left to right, we do the problem from left to right. We start in and do 11 minus 7 is 4 and go from there. Problem is, it wouldn't turn out real well that way. We mentioned earlier last week that there's often more than one correct way of doing things, but there is only one correct answer. So when we deal with this, yeah, there might be more than one way to approach it, but there's only going to be one correct answer. So to make sure that we limit ourselves to methods that are going to give us a correct answer, we use a set of rules called the order of operations. Now, the order of operations is often misrepresented as being a set of steps. It's not really a set of steps. What it is levels of priority. Certain things have a higher priority than others, therefore they have to happen first. So our first and highest level of priority is what's called enclosing symbols. Now, many of you often just hear this referred to as parentheses. A parenthesis is a type of enclosing symbol, but there are going to be several others that we run into. Number 2 is something called exponents. Exponents include 2 things. We haven't really covered each of them much yet. Powers and roots. Third level of priority is multiplication. Now we've already discussed the fact that multiplication and division are the same thing. So division happens at the same time. And then the lowest priority, the last thing that gets done, is addition. If there's nothing else to do, addition, and of course, along with addition becomes subtraction. So back up to our original problem here. What is the highest level of priority? Well, we have subtraction, multiplication, and addition are the only things happening there. What's the highest level of priority? Multiplication. So we will multiply 7 times 6 first. What does that give us? 42. Now notice the plus 2 is still there. The minus is still in front, and there's an 11 there. So it's 11 minus 42 plus 2. Now I get the question a lot, well, is that 7 times 6 or is that a negative 7 times 6? I viewed it as just 7 times 6 and then it's being subtracted in front. We could, however, have change that to a plus a negative 7. So it would be negative 7 times 6. In order to treat it as a negative 7 times 6, we'd have to do that. So then this would become plus a negative 42, and then plus 2. This and then what we have right down here are exactly the same thing. They just look different. 11 plus negative 42 and 11 minus 42 will both give us the same result, which is negative 31, right? Plus 2 is a negative 29. So either way, we're going to get a result that's a negative 29. Let's look at one that's a little bit more difficult. Something like this. Now, this one's quite a bit longer. Really not a lot more difficult. Do we have enclosing symbols? Yes, we do, right here. Set of parentheses. So now we're going to focus our work inside those sets of parentheses, inside the blue box, if you will. Inside there, we still have to ask, are there any other enclosing symbols? No. Exponents. We have the power. 3 to the power of 2, which is what? 9. Now again, notice, nothing else changes. I take out the 3 to the power of 2. Everything else is still there. The times. And so on. Still inside the parentheses. No other exponents, so now we go to multiplication and division. There are several of those, so what do? Left to right. First is going to be 28 divided by 7, which is 4. Again, nothing else changes. And then 4 times 2, which is 8. So we take out the 4 times 2 and replace it with 8. Next, now we're over here to the 2 times 9, which is 18. So the 2 times 9 gets replaced with 18. And then 18 divided by 6, which is 3. We're all done with multiplication and division in there, so we're going to go ahead and move to addition and subtraction. We're going to go left to right again. 3 plus 8 is 11. And then 11 minus 3 is 8. And then 8 plus 1 is 9. Now that I've reduced what's in that parentheses, in that enclosing symbol, to a single number, I don't need the parentheses anymore. So I'm going to take out the parentheses. Now in this case, there was a 5, a number in front of the parentheses with no symbol there. What do I have to put in when I take out the multiplication? Very good. So now my next step is going to be to multiply. 5 times 9 is 45. Then we have 8 plus 45 is 53. Minus 7 is 46. What do you think? Not too bad? Okay. Now you'll notice at each step I took out 2 numbers, replaced it 1, then I rewrote the whole rest of the problem. Technically, that's how we should do it. My experience is I see more people make mistakes rewriting the rest of the problem than I do making the calculation. So on the next example, I'm going to show you a shortcut that I use. This kind of keeps me from making some of those mistakes. By the way, before I even move on here, I'm going to show you the biggest mistake that I see people make on a problem like this. Right from the beginning, they'll say, oh, 8 plus 5 is 13, and they'll put that in. Well, what's wrong with that? It's not the order of operations. If we look at this 5 here, it has 2 operations. It has the plus in front of it, but it has times behind it. Multiplication has a higher level of priority. We cannot do anything to that 5 until it's been multiplied. The addition cannot happen until the multiplication is. That one of the methods, the way I did is I just looked at the overall operations. One of the methods of doing order of operations is to look at each number and perform the highest level priority operation on each side of the number. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay. Sometimes the book will use square brackets or the squiggly brackets, different shapes. Sometimes they'll just use parentheses. So you have to be able to pick out which ones go with which. And that's a good question. We look at this one here and we see that there are more than one set of parentheses. So whenever there's something on the same level of priority, we work left to right. So going left to right, this is the first parenthesis we run into. So now we have to find its other end. Well, this one here is facing the wrong way, so that can't be it. This one goes back to the nearest one, which is here, so that can't be it. Here is finally our other end. So we're going to start working inside the blue box. As I mentioned in the last problem, we still have to check inside that box are there any other enclosing symbols. Yes, there's another set of parentheses. So we're going to narrow down to that set of parentheses. So inside the red box, in there, any other enclosing symbols? No. Any exponents? No. Multiplication or division? Yes, multiplication. We're going to do 2 times 5 makes 10. And I promise you I was going to show you a shortcut here. This next step is where I'll start it. Inside that set of parentheses here yet, what's next? Yeah, 7 plus 10, which is 17. So I'm just going to erase those 2 numbers and replace them with 17. Then we have 17 minus 5, which is 12. Now I realize if you're trying to take notes and you want to show every step in your notes, what I'm doing right now is messing you up. You can't write fast enough to get everything written down. So I'd recommend if you do want to go through and write it out step by step, rewriting the whole problem each time, go ahead and come back and use the recording to do that so you can pause it and write it out. But just for our sake of time and space here, we're going to keep erasing. So now our parentheses is down to a single number, so I can get rid of the parentheses. Do I have to put in multiplication? No, there's already been operations on both sides of the parentheses, right? So now I go back out to the bigger set of parentheses here. Make sure that looks like an 8. Are there any other enclosing symbols in that set of parentheses out to here? No. Exponents? No. We only have one multiplication or division right here. 18 divided by 6 is 3. So I'm going to take that out and put in a 3. Then it's just addition and subtraction, so we're going to go left to right. 3 plus 13 is 16. Minus 12, 4. And 4 plus 1 is 5. So now that I've reduced what's inside that parentheses to a single number, I don't need it anymore. So I take out the parentheses, remembering to put in multiply because there's a 2 in front with no symbol. Rewrite the rest of it. Now what? Multiply and divide straight across. So 2 plus 3 is 10. And 3 times 5 is 15. So we have 7 plus 10 minus 15. We'll do 7 plus 10 first is 17. Minus 15 is 2. All that work for 2. Another example I want to show you. So 7 plus 5 times 7 over this. To understand this problem here, we need to understand this symbol here. What does that mean? Okay, it does mean divide. It's called a fraction bar. Now, one of the things it does tell us to do is to divide, but it's also an enclosing symbol. It's separating the top of the problem from the bottom. So it's saying we have to do everything on top first, do everything on bottom next, and then divide. So let's do what's on top of that first. 7 plus 5 times 7. What do we have to do first? 5 times 7 is 35. 7 plus 35 is 42. So the top reduces to 42. On bottom, what do we have to do first? Multiply. 3 times 8 is 24. Now I get asked all the time, could I do the 3 times 8 and the 5 times 2 at the same time? In this problem, you could get away with that. It wouldn't cause any problems. But there are times where you can't do simultaneous multiplications. So you safest if you just do it step by step, go left to right. So 5 times 2 is 10. So 24 minus 10 makes 14. So then 42 minus 14 is 3. Any questions? Okay. I want to give you guys a little time to get started. In your book, pages 13 and 14, 1 through 41, the odds. Go through these order of operations. Page 13 and 14. And just like any of the assignments last week, if you're doing the first couple and they seem really easy, skip ahead a few. These do get fairly difficult by the end, so make sure you do a couple of them at least. If you still have problems to finish up on the quiz, please feel free to take this time to keep working on it. If we get to the end of the class and you still need more time, let me know and we'll figure something out for you.